crucified and not pitied. Crucify him, O judge. And having crucified him, have pity on him. For it's not joy I thirst for, but sorrow and tears. It was sorrow that I sought at the bottom of that glass, sorrow and tears. Never. And I found it. Tasted it. Extremity, despair. Max Brod complained to Kafka. I don't like Dostoievski, he said. All his characters are mad. And Kafka replied, oh, no, they're only incidentally mad. It's a most fruitful form of human presentation. We're all mad sometimes. And Dostoievski was fascinated by the craziness of normal psychology. We all, sitting alone, say, God, Christ, what a fool I am, or me, or I've got him, sitting alone. We all do it.
Dostoievsky was himself as extreme and morbidly sensitive as any of his characters.
Dogged throughout his life by dire poverty and epilepsy.
A gambler.
A hypochondriac.
A whiner.
One would even say a nervous wreck.
His father was a doctor, a morose and violent man.
His mother was gentle and devout. He was sent to a school of military engineering, but his real enthusiasm was for literature.
His first novel, Poor Folk, was greeted with great acclaim.
But his second, The Double, was poorly received.
In 1848, Dostoevsky joined a liberal discussion group, the Petrushevsky Circle.
They just talked French socialism. They did no harm, but they were informed on. And one morning, 4 o'clock, Dostoevsky woke up, and a lieutenant colonel in the light blue uniform of the secret police was standing by his bed. Told him to get up, dress, searched, put in the Peter and Paul fortress. And an odd thing, neurotic young man, every sign of frailty. But he didn't break, didn't betray his friends. Others groveled, others lied. He stuck firm. He was sentenced to death, the famous mock execution to which the Tsar added some cunning touches, some cruel touches of his own, tied to a post in a white shirt. Blue sky, he said, blue sky. And a weather vane caught his eye, and he thought, this is life. This is living life. This is Givagis. And, of course, the last moment, the troopers arrived, and the execution was off, and instead, 4 years penal servitude in Siberia.
This was the great formative experience of Dostoevsky's life, which he recorded in his memoirs from the House of the Dead.
Look at Lammas, little boy. No one's ever cut no bits off him. No amputations.
He looks worried.
I bet he's got a lot of money.
In the criminal himself, prison develops only hatred, a thirst for forbidden pleasures, and terrible irresponsibility. Corruption and perversity, backbiting and scandal-mongering went on ceaselessly. This was hell, the nethermost pit and the outer darkness. It would be the same again, tomorrow and the next day, and every day for years, until the moment of freedom came. But when would that be, you thought? And where was this freedom?
The Dostoevsky prison world, the House of the Dead world, opens out into the world of Crime and Punishment and all the major novels. It's a world of cries, despairing, angry cries heard in the night. It's a world of coming and going, banging doors, drafty passages, of whispering, quarrelling through thin walls. And the interiors, cheerless, always shabby, minimal, like Raskolnikov's room, yellowing wallpaper, with much longing for home, but no home. There are no homes in Dostoievsky. Think of the stove for a moment, the Russian pechka, the hearth, as we would call it. There aren't any working stoves in Dostoievsky. They're either out or malfunctioning or poisoning people even. Beds are not for sleeping soundly on in Dostoievsky. They're for throwing oneself down on, for having nightmares on, being ill on, brooding sullenly or frenziedly on.
He looked around his little room with hatred. He had withdrawn from the world completely, like a tortoise into its shell, and even the face of the maid, whose duty it was to look after him, exasperated him beyond endurance.
Get up, sir! Get up! I brought you some cabbage soup. You must be starving. Mistress wants to go and complain about you to the police, sir.
Police? What for?
You know what for. You haven't been paying your rent, have you?
She's a fool. I'll go and have a talk to her today.
I dare say she is a fool, the same as I am. But why is it that a clever man like you lies about like a sack of coals? Why don't you ever do anything?
But I am doing something.
Are you now? Well, what is it?
Working.
What kind of work?
I am thinking.
I swear to you that to think too much is a disease. A real, actual disease. Why do I say that? Well, we all show off with our diseases. Me, especially. And I say to you that every kind of intellectual activity is a disease, all right? That's enough. Not another word on this subject you find so extraordinarily interesting.
Thinking. Another character from another book. Dostoevsky invented the underground man, podpolny человек. This is a 1987 figure, as modern as AIDS. We must think of vicious, spiteful thoughts. He introduces himself to us as spiteful, Yazloi. He just keeps talking. We must think of the idea of futility, the idea of no end, of no beginning, of a kind of non-sequential babble, an eternal, meaningless nightmare present that is just flaunted. He's an indecent exposer of consciousness. He's a flasher. He's in the mind. He's one of those men who hide behind the gorse bushes as the girl golfers arrive, and he comes out, but what can he flash at them? He's nothing to wave but his consciousness.
I'm very touchy. I'm sensitive and quick to take offense, like a hunchback.